Hello subscribers and guests of the channel. Today we will talk about the most famous and successful thieves in the world. Frank William Abagnale Jr. He was born in 1948 and is still alive today. Frank William was almost invincible. He succeeded in almost everything he undertook, while easily dodging both the police and the FBI. His forensic biography began at the innocent age of 16. Frank was a specialist in acting and masquerade. Over time, he only improved his skills and talents in fraud. He thus developed his plans in order to gain valuable experience from them and create new methods of fraud. His plans were perfect, as were his methods of work. The thief has proven his genius and talent countless times. However, his scheme for cashing a huge amount of checks was perhaps the most outstanding of all. Frank had an incredible ability to forge checks, cheat, deceive, while he always masterfully avoided the possibility of being caught. Surprisingly, he did not steal priceless works of art, but used his cunning to make 26 banks around the world lose millions of dollars over the course of 5 years. Using false identities of successful lawyers and doctors, he spread throughout the Atlantic. Another notable scam of his was a business trip with young female flight attendants. While he promised them work in a fake airline, he gave women the opportunity to spend their summers traveling around Europe, scattering promises of work. None of them had the slightest idea that they were just part of his elaborate scam. As a result, Frank pocketed about $300,000. Perhaps he is the only living thief who has achieved success not only while on the run, but also after the end of his criminal activities. Based on his crimes, the film Catch Me If You Can was filmed with Leonardo DiCaprio in the title role. François Villon. François Villon is also known as the King of Vagabond. He is also noted as a French poet, because from the point of view of poetry, he brought a fairly large number of innovative ideas. However, most of the writing he wrote while in prison. These were poems about his life, about poverty, about problems, about the court. But in fact, he was a thief, and a lot is known about his criminal activities. François became a criminal after joining a gang of thieves who called themselves the Gang des Coquelids. They started by robbing churches and offices. His real name is unknown to anyone, because he appeared everywhere under 2 different surnames. According to historical data, François was born into a very poor family. An amazing period of his early life was that he studied art. Moreover, after college he continued his studies and even received a bachelor's degree. One of his greatest achievements as a robber was the theft of 500 gold crowns from the chapel at the Collège de Navarre. For 4 years after that, he could not be found anywhere. He led a nomadic lifestyle. However, he later found himself behind bars on numerous occasions for his countless crimes and robberies. However, François was always released on bail. Once he was even supposed to be hanged, but this never happened. What happened to François after his last disappearance is unknown to anyone. He simply disappeared from history. Bill Mason. He was born in 1940 and is still alive today. By all accounts, he was a hard-working father and a loving husband. He worked in the real estate industry as a manager. But in fact, Billy Mason was the most successful thief in American history. He was excellent because he managed to keep his real name a secret for a huge amount of time, not only from the police and the FBI, but also from his family and friends. Bill was the greatest jewel thief in the world. He is responsible for stealing $35 million worth of jewelry from private residences, and he regularly robbed socialites and celebrities. Despite the fact that his life was very successful, he still chose criminal activity. Why? Because Bill was literally obsessed with thrills and problems. According to him, people can build tall buildings, install additional security systems, hide their valuables in places where, in their opinion, nothing threatens them, and also close them with many locks. However, even this will not save jewelry from being to be stolen. This is how it actually happened. To learn more about his criminal cases, you can read his book Confessions of a Master Jewel Thief, where he talks in detail about his scams, fully describes their plans to steal unique jewels and confirms everything real stories. Doris Payne. She was born in 1930 and is still alive today. Now that's interesting. An ordinary woman becomes one of the most successful and famous thieves in the world. Yes. She will wear extraordinarily expensive clothes, enter the most desired jewelry store, find a job as a clerk, and hypnotize everyone with her charms, thereby making her forget how much jewelry she was given to try on. Incredibly, this woman stole countless pieces of jewelry over a period of 6 decades. She was absolutely successful in her thieving business. She was never seen just grabbing a piece of jewelry and running away. That was not her style. This only happened once during her teenage years, when Doris mistakenly stole an expensive watch. Since then, she has decided never to do that again. The woman developed a plan on how to get into the store and steal something of interest from it, while remaining unnoticed. Doris was well aware that a cheap dress and a cheap handbag would work against her, so she always looked brand new when she was heading to the right store at the right time. Over time, according to her stories, she learned to pronounce the minimum number of words, not to give out unnecessary information. She knew where and how to sell stolen goods, etc. She tended to keep the stolen goods in plain sight without hiding them. Doris' story is very long and worth reading. It is worth noting that for her there was never a question about money. It was all about the game. Albert Spaghieri. The phrase "no guns, no hate, no violence" could probably become a trademark of Albert Spaghieri. A note with this inscription was found after the largest robbery of all time in France in 1976. It was written by Albert Spaghieri himself, a criminal by profession, and one of the most successful. Early in his adult life, he was a photography studio owner and a largely civilized man. However, the life of an ordinary middle-class member bored him, so he decided to turn to the world of crime. For the world, the taste of which he knew in his youth, he had to pay by being behind bars. After that, for several years he was a completely law-abiding citizen. However, his grandiose return to criminal activity nevertheless took place. He developed the greatest robbery plan. Albert hired a group of career criminals. According to his instructions, they had to completely give up coffee, alcohol, and get enough sleep regularly. Their task was to dig a tunnel to the bank during holidays when the institution was closed. Thus, the man was able not only to get into the vault, but also to open up to 400 safes, steal about 60 million in other valuables. Even after he was captured, he managed to escape during the course of the case. After that, he was never found. Thank you for your attention.